All right, so good morning, everyone. So let's have a quick daily briefing for today and just a quick recap on yesterday's data. Okay, so first thing is the manufacturing PMI for Eurozone for the month of June. So previous data was 63.1 and forecasted at 62.1 and release time yesterday, 4 p.m. And for the month of June, the manufacturing PMI for Eurozone was 63.1. So beats the forecasted and unchanged comparing on the previous data. Followed by the services PMI for the Eurozone as well for the month of June. So previous data was 55.2 and forecasted at 57.8. And for the month of June, the services PMI for Eurozone was 58. So slightly higher than the forecasted, but it beats the previous data. So services PMI and manufacturing PMI, both data for the Eurozone are better than the forecasted. So after the release, the Euro dollar in particular, it went up for almost 30 pips after the release of this data. Followed by the manufacturing PMI as well for UK for the month of June. So previous data was 65.6 and forecasted at 64. And a release time for 30 p.m. And for the month of June, the manufacturing PMI for UK it was 64.2, so slightly higher than the forecasted, but it's actually lower than the previous data. And for the service sector for UK as well, so previous data was 62.9 and forecasted at 63. And for the service sector for UK, it went down at 61.7. So did not beat the forecasted data and the previous data as well. So right after the release of the services PMI and services PMI and manufacturing PMI for the UK, the price of the GBP against the dollar was actually traded back and forth around the 1.40 territory and 1.3950. Followed by the retail sales for Canada month-on-month basis for month of April. So previous data was 3.6% and forecasted at negative 5%. And release time last night, 8:30 p.m. So for retail sales for Canada for the month-on-month basis for April was negative 5.7%. So lower than the forecasted and the previous data. But to be specific on the dollar against the Canadian dollar, there's actually no significant effect after the release. But during the Asian session, the current price of the USD against the Canadian dollar was 1.2303. And for the US manufacturing PMI for the month of June, previous data was 62.1 and forecasted at 61.5. And for the actual data, it was 62.6, so slightly higher than the forecasted, but it beats the previous data. And for the US service sector, previous data was 70.4 and forecasted at 70. And the release time last night, 9:45. And for the service sector, for the US, it went down to 64.8. So it did not beat the forecasted and it's lower than the previous data. So it was actually a neutral peg for the dollar, but to be specific, the dollar index had a modest gains around the 91.80 after the release. But during the Asian session, the current price of the dollar index was around the 91.80 as well. And last thing is the crude oil or the weekly crude oil inventories. Previous data was negative 7.355 m and forecasted at negative 3.942. And release time last night, 10:30 p.m. And the actual data for the weekly crude oil inventories was seen around the negative 7.614 million per barrel. But after the weekly crude oil inventories, there's actually no significant effect for the crude oil in particular. But during the Asian session, the current price of crude oil was seen around the 72.9 per barrel. So economic data today, actually the during the European session, we can expect that the market will be very volatile, in particular for the sterling or the GBP. 7 p.m. later on, the GBP will release their interest rate decision for the month of June. So we can expect that majority of all the pairs that is paired by the GBP will be very volatile today, and followed by the US session. 8:30 p.m. We have durable goods for month-on-month basis for May, and the gross domestic product for quarterly basis, and the weekly initial jobless claims. So we can expect that for today will be a very busy market for GBP against the dollar in specific. So please put a proper risk management and be cautious as well. So key product for today is the British pound against the US dollar. So during the Asian session, the current price was around the 1.3960. And what you are seeing right now on the lower left of the screen is the current position or retail positioning for the GBP against the dollar. And it looks like that majority of the traders as of this moment are currently on the long position for the GBP against the dollar. So to be specific, there is around almost 78.6% retail traders that is currently on the long position for the GBP against the dollar, but it doesn't mean that it will drive the direction of this pair. But overall, any positive tone for the BOE later, so it may trigger the price to rebound sharply within its range, but any contrarian bias or negative tone may limit the upside potential of this pair. So possible support is 1.3920 and 1.3883, and resistance at 1.3998 and 1.4038 respectively. Again, for the European session, we have to focus on the interest rate decision for UK for the month of June later at 7 p.m. And for the US session, we have to focus on the durable goods order for the month-on-month basis for May, and the GDP for US as well during the first quarter, and the weekly initial jobless claims. So overall, if you're planning to trade currencies that is paired by the GBP, to be specific, please put a proper risk management and be cautious as well. All right, so that's it for me for today. Thank you everyone for joining. Please stay safe and have a great day.